So, after drawing against Inter Milan and all but getting dumped out of the Champions League last week, Xavi apparently rallied his troops and told them to forget about the UCL and focus on La Liga. In the lead up to the must-win matchup, and also coincidentally, in commemoration of Drizzy Drake reaching 50 billion streams on Spotify, it was announced that Barcelona's kits would rock the OVO logo. But unfortunately for Barcelona, 3 points for them was just not part of God's plan. The biggest matchup of the domestic calendar in Spain just took place, the 100th edition to be played at the Bernabeu too. Both teams headed into the match level on points at the top of the table, meaning that the winner would surge to the summit. The scene was set up pretty well, and the match did not disappoint. Madrid came out on top and showed that they have not lost a single step coming into the season, and as for Barcelona, they've been looking better this season, but unfortunately, there still seems to be quite a bit of naivety in their overall play that is yet to be shaken. This was a fascinating contest. Naturally, I came away with it with a few talking points that I want to get into today around the seasons that these two clubs have had thus far, notable players, and of course, the match itself. So, let's talk. Yo, what's going on guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe and welcome back to the Football Iconic channel. If you haven't already, and also if you wouldn't mind, hitting that subscribe button would be pretty chill, but also no pressure. Just before we really get into this video, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor. Football moves fast, guys. New games every week, new players to follow, a new spicy scandal breaking headlines every other day. How on earth are we supposed to keep up? Actually, I know how. 2 words. OneFootball. Wait, no, sorry, it's actually 1 word. Got a busy day ahead of you and don't have time to be sat in front of the TV enjoying your team play? Download OneFootball and follow the action. Live scores, lineups, it's got all you need. Need to catch up on the latest news coming out of your team's camp? Download OneFootball and see what the new story coming out of the French national team camp is. Need to double check the scoring charts to see who's in pole position for that prestigious golden boot? You don't need to look, it's Erling Haaland. But I'm sure you get the idea. With sections dedicated to your favorite teams, players, leagues, and much more, OneFootball is the go-to football app to keep you informed and in the know. So why not go ahead and click the link in the description to download OneFootball for free today. Big thanks to OneFootball for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. The match. The game had a fast start, so it wasn't surprising that it only took 12 minutes for first blood to be drawn. And it was only fitting that Karim Golden Ball Benzema put them ahead. Injuries have been a niggling problem for the man thus far this season, but he pretty much always shows that as long as he's on the pitch, there will always be problems. Adding on to that, he was only a few measly centimeters from getting his second of the match later, but his fantastic solo effort was ruled out due to offsides. Barca quickly took control of the match after that, and I was pretty convinced that they were going to draw level pretty soon. However, Real Madrid did what they do best and subverted our expectations. Fede Valverde slammed in an inch-perfect thunderbolt into the bottom left corner, and it was 2-0 just before half-time. Speaking of the Uruguayan, this guy is just on another level, isn't he? Immediately after the match, Toni Kroos tweeted out that Valverde was top 3 in the world right now. Now, here's the thing about that. Usually when someone says something like that about another player, it's often quite misleading. You know, attackers, just by the very nature of their roles, are seen to be more flashy and given more appreciation because of that, whereas defenders, for the exact same reason, are often not given the props that they deserve. But in this guy's case, he is so versatile that you really cannot argue this statement at all. Top 3 in terms of center mids? Yeah, I can see that. Top 3 in terms of right wingers? Yeah, I can see that too. You're not going to get any arguments from me. I've even seen him do well at CDM, as a right back, even at cam. The pace, the work rate, the technique, the awareness, this guy is a Swiss knife. Barca did come through late in the match to pull one back, but Rodrigo was having none of that, won himself a pen, and dispatched it with confidence. 3-1. Royal Madrid is thus sat on their throne at the very top, for now, at least. Ancelotti's game management this entire year has really been something, setting the team up to allow them to soak up pressure when required with the width and positioning to counter effectively. When the ball needed to be held up, they could do that too. And of course, one of the substitutes comes on and sealed the victory in the 91st minute. This match marked 14 games that the Spanish side have played since tasting defeat. Los Blancos don't look like they're missing Casemiro in the slightest. Kroos was bossing things as usual, especially for the first goal. Some great play by him. And of course, Modric is a really promising young talent. Very keen to see what he does with the rest of his career. On the flip side, not all of the Madrid-related stories to come out of this match are positive. It came out that since Eden Hazard joined Real Madrid, there have been 8 Clásicos played, and he hasn't played a single one of them. No, I mean, not even a single minute. Actually, I'm not sure why I said this wasn't positive. We should be happy for him. He's had some of the best seats in the house. In all seriousness, it is a shame that he's declined as rapidly as he has. I mean, A lot of people, myself included, have made the jokes about the eating in the past, but we all know that something else is going on there. But what do you guys think? Do you think he can still return to the glory days of the past, or do you think that those are all behind us? Let me know all your thoughts below. Outside of La Liga, I'd be shocked if Madrid does not cruise through to the knockouts of the Champions League. Things are all going to plan for them. And on that note, to summarize Madrid's performance and how well things have been going for them, now onto Barcelona. Look, I'm not going to go into full doomsday reaction on this one. Despite what you might see on the internet, Barcelona have very visibly improved since last season. It's more or less expected when you spend almost 160 million euros in transfers and what is likely a very sizable sum in wages. Also, only one defeat in La Liga. But if we're all being completely honest, it's not like that matters. This is FC Barcelona at the end of the day. And it's not so much the single defeat, but the nature of the defeat, as well as the context surrounding it, that is probably a little bit upsetting. And what I mean by that is that if you compound it with the recent disappointment of their current Champions League campaign, it paints a rough picture. Currently third in their UCL group of death, having suffered defeats to Bayern Munich and Inter Milan, and also a draw to the latter, things aren't looking good. They will essentially require a miracle to progress further to the next rounds, which is a bit of a problem, seeing as reports suggest that they are reported to lose out on about 21 million euros in prize and progression money if they do not make it to the next stage. The issue is that this is money that has already been included in their budget for their annual expenses, meaning that if it does not come, they will... Did you guys hear that? My God. It's the sound of another lever. The pressure really is on Xavi right now too. We spoke about the fact that Barcelona have been better this year. But when things aren't going your way, you already know that people will be out here digging up stats to pile on to your misery. It's come out that in his first 50 games, Xavi has had the worst record of any Barcelona manager since 2001. And before you say it, yes, that does also include Ronald Koeman, which is wild. To be fair, Koeman, as well as most of the others, did have La Pulga, which we can't discount. I just want to go back to the game in question for a moment to briefly discuss some of my own observations. Just like in every game that they've struggled in this season, they had the lion's share of the possession and moved the ball really well up until about the final third. But against teams like Real Madrid and Inter Milan, just to use the most recent two as examples, the gulf in efficiency was night and day. Both times around, Barca saw more of the ball. 62% versus 38% against Inter, and 57% versus 43% against Madrid. Both times around, Barca had plenty of looks at goal, 25 shots versus 11 against Inter, and a crazy 18 shots versus only 8 against Madrid. The opportunities were being created, but when it comes to being clinical, they ultimately came up second best both times. Some may argue that the refereeing decisions should shoulder some of the blame. Joan Laporta was up in arms in the referee's office after the match, believing that his side was hard done by, which is not a good look at all, but I get the frustration. However, as I said, Barca had their chances and they ultimately only have themselves to blame. And it's also worth noting that even though this isn't talked about all too loudly, especially considering the fact that he's prolific far more often than he's not, Robert Lewandowski does have a bit of a tendency to go missing on some of the larger occasions. Obviously, the biggest examples include him not scoring in either of the Champions League finals he's played in. And yes, this was only a league match, not exactly a final. But it was a Clásico, and the match had some pretty high stakes at the end of the day. I might be grasping at straws here, but I thought it was worth mentioning. In defense, the likes of Eric Garcia were letting the team down with some pretty avoidable individual errors. Not the first time that's happened this season, and it's those small errors that the more elite teams will pounce on with no mercy. The team is certainly stacked, however, they just seem to be at a loss when it comes to composure at the moment. How they bounce back from this horror week will be their true test. Here's the thing, we're only 9 games into the campaign, so it's highly possible that absolutely everything I've said in this video thus far can mean absolutely nothing in the coming months, maybe even weeks. But it's these statement results that people often tend to look back on at the end of the season when they're trying to pinpoint exactly what had the most influence on the ultimate fate of a club's season. I guess we'll just need to sit back and watch. It'll be interesting to see how things ultimately pan out. And there we have it. Had a really great time putting this one together. As always, I'd like to invite you all to call me out in the comments and also let me know what you think of the seasons of these two clubs thus far. That is it for me today. Feel free to follow me on all the socials. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.